Welcome to English Prime Podcast. Let's get started.
Hey, English learners. Welcome back to English Prime Podcast. Here we learn real English through simple conversations, daily life stories, and powerful communication tips. So relax, enjoy, and let's improve your English together. I'm Emma.
And I am Jake. Here, we help you build your English naturally by listening to real conversations about life, emotions, challenges, and everyday experiences.
I'm really happy you're here today because we are going to talk about something that almost every person has in their life: dreams.
Yes, dreams. And I think dreams are interesting because everyone has something they want to achieve. It could be a big dream like building a successful career, traveling the world, or starting a business. Or it could be something simple, like improving yourself or learning a new skill.
Exactly. And sometimes when we think about our dreams, we feel excited. We imagine the future, we imagine success, and we think, yes, I can do this.
But then, after some time, something changes. The excitement becomes less. Life gets busy, and suddenly that dream feels far away.
That's so true. I think many people don't stop dreaming because they don't have goals. They stop because the journey becomes harder than they expected.
Yeah, and that is something many people experience. At the beginning, everything feels easy because we only see the beautiful part of the dream. We see the results, but we don't always think about the work behind it.
Right. Like someone might say, I want to speak English confidently, or I want to become successful in my career. Those are great dreams. But the real question is, what are you doing every day to move closer to that dream?
That's the difficult part. Because dreams are exciting, but the daily steps can sometimes feel boring or challenging.
And I think that's where many people get stuck. They want the final result, but they don't know how to enjoy the small steps along the way.
Yes, and today we're going to talk about that. Why do people have dreams but still struggle to achieve them? What stops us from taking action? And more importantly, what can we do to finally move forward?
Because the truth is, having a dream is only the beginning. A dream needs action, patience, and the courage to continue even when things are not easy.
I really like that because sometimes people think successful people never feel afraid or never have problems. But the reality is different. Everyone faces difficulties. The difference is how they respond to those difficulties.
Exactly. And I think this is a conversation everyone can connect with because we all have something we want to achieve. Maybe you have a dream you've been thinking about for years, but you haven't started yet.
Or maybe you started before, but you stopped because you felt tired, confused, or unsure. That happens to many people.
So today, let's explore this together and talk about how we can turn our dreams into real progress.
And if you enjoy these kinds of real conversations, don't forget to like the video and stay with us. We're going to have a meaningful conversation about dreams, challenges, and how we can keep moving forward.
Yes, let's begin by looking at the first big question. Why do we sometimes have a dream we truly care about, but still find it difficult to take action?
That's a really good question. And I think one big reason is that we often focus only on the dream itself, but we don't think enough about the journey.
I agree. When we imagine our dreams, we usually imagine the best part. We imagine the success, the happiness, and the moment when we finally achieve it.
Exactly. For example, someone might dream about becoming a great speaker. They imagine standing in front of people and speaking confidently, but they don't always imagine the practice, the mistakes, and the uncomfortable moments they need to go through first.
That's so true. And I think this happens with many things in life. We see the final result, but we don't see all the small steps that created that result.
Yeah, and sometimes those small steps don't feel exciting. They can feel slow. A person may practice every day for weeks or months, but they might not notice a big change immediately.
And that can be frustrating. People start thinking, maybe I'm not good enough, or maybe this dream is not for me.
Right, but the problem is not always the dream. Sometimes the problem is our expectation. We expect fast results, but most meaningful things take time.
I think that's an important point. We live in a world where we see quick success stories everywhere.
We see someone's achievement, but we don't see the years of effort behind it.
Yes, especially now with social media. Someone can share their success in one post, and we forget that there is a long story behind that one moment.
Exactly. And when we compare our beginning with someone else's success, we can lose confidence.
That's true. And another thing that stops people is that they wait for the perfect time. They think, I'll start when I have more time, or I'll start when I feel ready.
I think many of us have said that before. I'll start tomorrow, I'll start next week, and sometimes tomorrow keeps moving further away.
Yes, and that's why many dreams stay dreams, not because people don't care about them, but because they keep waiting for the perfect moment.
I think the interesting thing is that the perfect moment usually doesn't come. Life will always have problems, responsibilities, and distractions.
Exactly. So maybe the better question is not, when will everything become easy? Maybe the question is, what small thing can I do today, even if things are not perfect?
I really like that because small actions feel possible. A big dream can sometimes feel scary, but one small step feels much easier.
Yes, and those small steps are actually what create confidence. When you take action, you start proving to yourself that you can move forward.
And that's where many people make a mistake. They think confidence comes before action, but sometimes confidence comes after you start.
Exactly. You don't always feel ready first. Sometimes you become ready by trying, learning, and improving along the way.
And I think this connects to another big reason people struggle with their dreams: fear.
Yes, fear is a huge part of it. Many people have dreams, but they are afraid to take the first step because they don't want to fail.
That's true. And I think failure is something many people misunderstand. They see failure as the end, but actually it can be part of the process.
Exactly. When something doesn't work, it doesn't always mean you should stop. Sometimes it just means you need to learn something and try a different way.
I like that idea because if we look at people who achieve big things, we often see their success, but we don't see how many times they failed before they got there.
Right. We usually see the final picture, not the unfinished ones. We see someone who is confident today, but we don't see the moments when they were confused or scared.
And I think that's why some people feel stuck. They think, if I'm struggling, maybe I'm not doing the right thing. But struggle is actually a normal part of growth.
Yes, because when you try something new, you are entering an area where you are not comfortable yet, and that naturally feels difficult.
Exactly. Think about learning a language. At the beginning, speaking English can feel uncomfortable. You may make mistakes, forget words, or feel nervous.
Yes, and sometimes people know the answer in their mind, but when they start speaking, the words disappear.
That happens to many learners. But the only way to improve is to keep practicing. You cannot become confident by only waiting and thinking about it.
That's such an important point. Many people want confidence before they start, but confidence is usually built after repeated practice.
Yes, it's like a person who wants to become good at a sport. They don't become better by only watching others play. They improve by practicing again and again.
Exactly. And the same thing applies to any dream. Whether it's learning something new, building a career, or improving yourself, you need action.
But I also think there is another reason people stop chasing their dreams. Sometimes they lose motivation.
Yes, and that happens because people depend too much on motivation. They think, when I feel inspired, I will work on my goal.
Right. But motivation changes every day. Some days you feel excited, and some days you don't feel like doing anything.
Exactly. If you only work when you feel motivated, it becomes very difficult to stay consistent.
So what do you think helps people continue when motivation is gone?
I think it's about creating a habit. When something becomes part of your routine, you don't have to fight with yourself every day.
That makes sense, because small habits are easier to maintain than big promises.
Yes, someone might say, I'm going to work 5 hours every day on my dream. But after a few days, they feel tired and stop.
That happens a lot. We start with a lot of energy, but sometimes we forget that dreams are long journeys.
Exactly. A better approach is to start small. Even 20 or 30 minutes every day can create a big change over time.
I completely agree, because small progress is still progress. You don't have to change your whole life in one day.
Yes, and I think that is something people need to remember. Achieving a dream is not about one perfect day. It's about many small choices repeated again and again.
And when you look back after some time, you realize those small steps actually took you much further than you expected.
Exactly. But there is still another challenge many people face while working toward their dreams. They compare their journey with other people.
Yes, and that comparison can really affect our confidence.
Definitely. I think comparison is one of the biggest reasons people feel like they are not making progress. They look at someone else's life and think, why am I not there yet?
Exactly. And the problem is that we usually compare our full journey with someone else's highlight. We see their success, but we don't see the difficult days behind it.
That's true. We don't see the practice, the failures, the doubts, or the hard work they did when nobody was watching.
Right. Someone may look successful today, but maybe they spent years learning, improving, and trying different things before they reached that point.
And everyone has a different starting point, too. Some people begin with more experience, more support, or different opportunities. So comparing every detail of your life with someone else's life is not always fair.
I agree. I think a better question is not, why am I not like them, but am I better than I was yesterday?
I really like that, because it brings the focus back to yourself. Your goal is not to copy another person's journey. Your goal is to build your own.
Exactly. And sometimes we forget that even small improvement matters. Maybe you are not where you want to be yet, but if you are learning and moving forward, that is already something valuable.
Yes, progress can be very quiet. Sometimes you don't notice it every day because the changes are small.
That's such a good point. Like learning English, for example. A person might practice every day and think, I'm still not fluent. But then one day they have a conversation and realize, wow, I understand much more than before.
Exactly. Growth is happening even when you cannot see it immediately.
And I think this is why patience is important. Dreams usually take longer than we expect.
Yes, and sometimes people quit because they think slow progress means no progress.
That's true. We want quick results, but real change usually needs time. It's like planting a tree. You don't put a seed in the ground today and expect a huge tree tomorrow.
Exactly. You have to water it, take care of it, and trust the process.
I love that example because dreams are similar. You have to keep putting effort into them, even when you cannot see the result yet.
Yes. And another thing I've noticed is that some people have dreams, but they never make a clear plan.
That's actually a big problem, because a dream without a plan can stay only an idea.
Exactly. Saying, I want to be successful sounds nice, but it is not very clear. The next question should be, what does success mean to me, and what steps can I take?
Right. A clear dream gives you direction. Instead of only thinking about the final result, you start thinking about the next small action.
For example, if someone wants to improve their English, they don't need to think, I need to become perfect. They can start with simple steps, like learning new phrases, listening, and speaking every day.
Yes, because small actions remove the pressure. Sometimes we stop because the goal feels too big.
Exactly. A big dream can feel scary, but when you break it into smaller pieces, it becomes easier to handle.
And I think that is one of the biggest lessons about dreams. You don't need to know every step before you begin. Sometimes you learn the next step by taking the first one.
That's true. You start, you learn, you adjust, and slowly you find your way.
And this reminds me of a story about someone who had a dream but struggled to take action. It's actually a situation many people can relate to.
Yes, and I think this story shows that sometimes the biggest change starts with one very small decision.
Exactly. Let me share a simple story. It's about someone who wanted to improve their English and become more confident when speaking.
That's a great example, because I think many learners can connect with this.
Yes, so this person really wanted to speak English better. They watched videos, learned new words, and saved many useful tips. They had a real dream of communicating confidently.
That sounds familiar. A lot of people collect information because they really want to improve, but sometimes they don't take the next step.
Exactly. And that was the problem.
They knew what to do, but they were afraid of making mistakes. Every time they wanted to speak, they thought, what if I say something wrong? What if people laugh?
And honestly, that fear is very common. Many people don't start because they are waiting to become perfect first.
Right. But after some time, this person realized something important. They were not improving because they were only preparing. They were not giving themselves a chance to practice.
That's a powerful realization, because sometimes we think we are moving forward, but we are only getting ready to start.
Exactly. So they decided to make one small change. They didn't say, I will speak English perfectly from tomorrow. They simply said, I will practice for 5 minutes every day.
I love that because 5 minutes sounds easy. It doesn't feel scary.
Yes, at first it was uncomfortable. They made mistakes, forgot words, and sometimes felt embarrassed. But they continued.
And that's the important part. They didn't wait until they felt confident. They built confidence by continuing.
Exactly. After a few months, they looked back and noticed something amazing. They were not the same person anymore. They could express their ideas better, and they were not as afraid of mistakes.
That's such a good lesson. The dream didn't come true because of one big action. It happened because of many small actions.
Yes, and I think that is how many dreams work. We often search for a huge moment that changes everything, but usually change happens quietly.
Right. One small habit, one small decision, one small step can slowly create a completely different future.
And I think the biggest lesson from this story is that you don't have to feel completely ready before you begin. Sometimes starting is what helps you become ready.
Exactly. But after starting, another important thing is knowing how to continue, because the journey doesn't end with the first step. You need the right mindset and simple actions to keep moving forward.
That's true. And I think one mistake people make is they believe achieving a dream is only about having a strong desire. Of course, wanting something is important, but a dream also needs a system.
Yes, because feelings change. Some days you feel excited and ready to work, but other days you feel tired or distracted. If you only depend on motivation, it becomes difficult to stay consistent.
Exactly. That's why small routines can be so powerful. When you create a simple habit, you don't have to think too much every day. You just follow the routine.
Right. For example, if someone wants to improve their English, they don't need to study for many hours every day. They can start with something simple, like practicing a few phrases, listening to a short conversation, or speaking for a few minutes.
Yes, because the goal is not to be perfect. The goal is to keep improving. Sometimes people put so much pressure on themselves that they become afraid to even begin.
That's a really important point. When the pressure is too high, even a small task feels impossible. But when you make the goal smaller, it becomes easier to take action.
Exactly. Instead of saying, I need to completely change my life, you can ask, what is one thing I can do today that helps my future?
I like that question because it brings your attention to the present. Sometimes we think so much about the final goal that we forget the step we need to take today.
Yes, and another important thing is learning from mistakes. A mistake does not mean you are failing. It means you are learning something.
Absolutely. Imagine someone learning to ride a bike. They will probably fall a few times, but falling does not mean they should stop. It is part of learning.
Exactly. And dreams are similar. There will be difficult days, but those days can teach you patience, discipline, and confidence.
I also think people should celebrate small progress. We often wait until we reach the final goal before we feel proud, but every small improvement matters.
That's true. If you learn something new, if you become a little better, or if you take one step you were afraid to take before, that is progress.
And I think this is where people can change their mindset. Instead of asking, how far do I still have to go? Sometimes ask, how far have I already come?
I love that, because looking back can remind you that your effort is creating change, even if the journey is still continuing.
Yes. And now I want to ask everyone listening a question. Think about your own life for a moment.
What is one dream that you have been thinking about for a long time, but haven't taken action on yet?
Maybe it's learning a new skill, improving your career, becoming healthier, or doing something you have always wanted to try.
And the next question is,
What is one small step you can take today? Not tomorrow, not next month, but today.
Because sometimes the first step doesn't need to be big. It just needs to be real.
So share your answer in the comments. We would love to know about your dreams and the small steps you are planning to take.
And remember, someone else's journey may look different from yours, but your progress is still valuable. Keep moving forward, one step at a time.
That's a great way to end that thought. And before we finish today's conversation, let's quickly look at some useful English expressions from our discussion. These are phrases you can use when you talk about your goals, challenges, and personal growth.
Yes, and I think these expressions are really useful because they are not only connected to dreams. You can use them in everyday conversations when you talk about your plans, your struggles, or something you want to improve.
The first phrase is chase your dreams. This means trying to achieve something you really want in your life. It means taking action instead of only thinking about your goal.
Exactly. For example, you can say, I want to chase my dreams and build a better future. It's a natural phrase when you talk about your hopes and ambitions.
Another common phrase is give up. This means to stop trying because something feels difficult or because you lose confidence.
Right. We use it a lot in real conversations. For example, don't give up just because something is challenging. It's a simple phrase, but it can encourage someone to continue.
I also want to talk about figure things out. This means trying to understand something or finding a solution to a problem.
Yes, and this phrase is very common because in life, we don't always know everything immediately. Sometimes we need time to learn and understand things.
For example, you can say, I'm still trying to figure things out. This means you are working on a problem and slowly finding the answer.
Another useful expression is take a step forward. It means making progress, even if the progress is small.
I really like this one because it reminds us that small actions still matter. For example, practicing English every day helps me take a step forward.
Exactly. Sometimes people think progress only counts when they achieve something big, but every small improvement is important.
Another phrase we used is stay focused. This means keeping your attention on your goal and not allowing distractions to stop you.
Yes. For example, I want to stay focused on my goals. It's a useful phrase when you talk about discipline and consistency.
And then we have make progress. This means to improve or move closer to your goal.
Right. You don't need to be perfect to make progress. You can improve slowly over time. For example, I'm making progress with my English.
That's a really positive phrase because it helps us notice improvement instead of only thinking about what is still missing.
And one more expression from today's conversation is keep moving forward. This means continuing your journey, even when things become difficult.
Yes, and I think this phrase connects with the whole message of today's episode. Challenges will come, but we can continue growing if we don't stop.
So let's quickly remember these useful phrases. Chase your dreams, give up, figure things out, take a step forward, stay focused, make progress, and keep moving forward.
Try to use these phrases in your own sentences. When you use them in real situations, they become easier to remember and more natural in your speaking.
Exactly. And now it's your turn to practice. Let's move into a short speaking activity where you can think about your own dreams and express your ideas in English.
Yes, this part is really important because improving English is not only about listening, you also need to practice speaking and sharing your own thoughts.
That's right. So we want you to pause the video after each question and try to answer out loud. Don't worry about making mistakes. The goal is to practice and become more comfortable.
Here is the first question. What is one dream you want to achieve in your life?
Take a moment and think about it. Maybe your dream is related to your career, your education, your personal growth, or something you have always wanted to do.
For example, you can say, my dream is to improve my skills and create a better future for myself. Keep your answer simple. You don't need difficult words.
Great. Now, the second question is, what usually stops you from taking action toward your dream?
Think honestly about your answer. Maybe it is fear, lack of time, confusion, or maybe you are waiting for the perfect moment.
You can answer like this. Sometimes I feel afraid of failing, but I want to start with small steps. Remember, recognizing the problem is already a step forward.
And here is the third question.
What is one small action you can take today to move closer to your dream?
This question is important because dreams become real through action. Even a small step can create a big change over time.
For example, you can say, "Today I can spend 20 minutes practicing a new skill." Simple actions repeated every day can build something meaningful.
I hope you take a few moments to answer these questions because your own voice matters. The more you practice expressing your ideas, the more confident you become.
And if you enjoyed this conversation and want to improve your English through real discussions, daily stories, and practical lessons, make sure to subscribe to English Prime Podcast.
Yes, join us for more episodes where we learn English naturally and talk about real-life topics that can help you grow.
Thank you for spending this time with us today. Remember, every dream starts with one small step, and every step brings you closer to the person you want to become.
Keep practicing, keep improving, and keep moving forward. We'll see you in the next conversation.
Before we go, let's quickly remember what we talked about today. We discussed dreams and why sometimes we have goals in our minds but still struggle to take action.
Yes, we talked about some common challenges like fear, waiting for the perfect time, losing motivation, and comparing our journey with other people.
And we learned that achieving a dream is not about making one huge change overnight. It's about taking small steps, building good habits, and continuing even when things feel difficult.
Exactly. We also learned some useful English phrases from today's conversation, like chase your dreams, figure things out, make progress, and keep moving forward.
These phrases are not only useful for talking about dreams. You can use them in many everyday conversations when you talk about your goals, challenges, and personal growth.
So the main message from today is simple. Your dream does not need a perfect beginning. It just needs a first step and the courage to continue.
And remember, progress may feel slow sometimes, but every small action you take today can create a better future tomorrow.
That's right. Your journey is your own, so don't worry if you are moving slower than someone else. The important thing is that you keep learning, keep trying, and keep growing.
I hope today's conversation gave you some motivation to look at your dreams in a different way. You don't have to wait for everything to be perfect. Start with what you have and take one small step.
Because every successful journey begins with a simple decision to start. And sometimes, the smallest step can become the beginning of something amazing.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. We really hope you enjoyed this conversation and learned something useful for your English.
And don't forget, your English improves step by step. Keep practicing, stay positive, and believe in your progress.
We'll be back with another real conversation soon. Until then, keep learning and keep growing.
Take care, everyone, and thank you for listening. Bye.
Bye, everyone. See you in the next conversation.